when you are in processes and systematic racism is real. And when it's embedded in processes of companies that's been around longer than you, it is hard to sometimes navigate that, because I think what a lot of Black females don't realize is that that opportunity is not going to just tap you. You're going to have to go after it, and you're going to have to remove some of those fears, imposter syndrome, all the stuff that could be holding you back internally, and push. And so it's uncomfortable, but you have to push. And the more you push, the more, in my opinion, God is going to enable you and strengthen you and then clear the way. So it was a lot of challenges in terms of interviewing constantly and being told, you interview so well, but you interview so well, but this person had 5 years of experience over you, 10 years of experience. And I'm like, is that the only thing? Oftentimes, even, minorities in general don't acknowledge the skills that they have inside of them. And so you've gotten experience in your community. You've gotten experience in professional organization. You got experience. And it's like, how do you package that? So, for example, your previous role, you did a lot of project management. And so you're packaging it only as project management. And when you're packaging it, that's only what people see is project management. But if you dissect it a little bit, you understand you were influencing people without authority. You didn't have the title, but you influenced them. You were collaborating with others. You were critically thinking about, like, all of these skills is there. But it's like, how do you take your experience and acknowledge that you do have it? It may be varying degrees, but you have it. And how do you share that? So I think a lot of times we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot because we think, oh, that was nothing. Like, I'm just doing a job. No. Because if you were just doing a job, somebody else would be doing it. Like, you doing it because you was uniquely positioned to do it. And out of that is skill sets that can take you further.
Welcome to Empower Her. It's your girl and your host, Nana. This is a show we educate, elevate, and aspire to inspire. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So a moment that just happened before we even started recording, I feel like I should talk about, because that embodies woman empowerment. My guest today, my hair was a little bit messed up, and she fixed it for me, and this woman knows me from nowhere. And I think that is like the meaning of woman empowerment, to see another sister going through some things and stepping in to fix it for them. And today I have with me a boss babe, Miss Shannon Phillips. Hey sis.
Hey girl.
I had to share that moment because I think what you just did there was exactly what I stand for, and obviously you stand for it too because you did it. Yeah. So thank you for that. Because of her, my hair looks good. But I want you to introduce yourself a bit before we start the show. I know you are an HR professional and you have your own podcast, What's Up? Yeah. But I want you to talk a little bit more in depth about who you are. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you first for having me on this podcast. It's a privilege and an honor, especially for what you're doing, and so I totally support it. And good evening, afternoon, wherever we're at, everyone. My name is Shannon Phillips, and like Nana said, I am an HR professional. So I am in our learning department, so I do trainings, I do facilitations. I just support our leaders that are developing in the company. So whether they're new leaders, whether existing leaders, we just support their growth and development. Also, you mentioned that I am a host of Power Seats podcast, so I do have my own podcast that I started a few years back. We'll probably talk more about it a little bit later on, but it is centered around self-care. So that holds me accountable. It's a journey, never-ending journey of self-care, so it holds me accountable. And also, family-wise, I have a nephew, love him to death. So I'm like his second mom, and have a wonderful family and friends. And I just like to do regular stuff, like like shop and travel and listen to music and all of that. So in any spare time that I can, I like to do those things.
Okay. I guess it's a little bit selfish, but I want to know about self-care because in my mid-20s now, it's more prominent than ever. I hear a lot more now, especially in social media and such. I remember recently I was going through like memories. Now how Snapchat gives you like memories. And I remember starting my self-care journey. And one of your podcasts, you mentioned, I think it was called Exercise Your Face. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's me. Because my first time actually getting into self-care, I thought it was just doing a face routine. Like that's all I knew self-care to be. And so I realized, oh wait, hold on, even breathing, taking time for yourself is self-care. And one of the myths you shared on your podcast was the fact that self-care is a luxury. Well, it's a myth, it's not true. Self-care is not a luxury. Well, people think it's a luxury that you have to pay big prices just to have that time. So I want to talk about self-care and what it really means to take care of yourself. And it's not, what the media portrays all the time, because it was a journey for me from a college student to now realizing that washing my face does not mean I'm taking care of myself thoroughly. So yeah, let's get into like the aspects of self-care. Like if you were to give like top 3, top 5, like where would you place self-care in a woman's world?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'll take it back to what you mentioned. Pre-pandemic, we all kind of had our own thoughts about self-care. We all did our own thing. Like you said, it was just kind of your facial routine.
Yeah.
But really, when the world shut down, that's when I think the expansion of what self-care truly is really came to the forefront. And I think people started evaluating what they felt self-care was prior to the pandemic. And so when you had to sit with yourself and face yourself, you understood, okay, what are the things that I really need to thrive and be at my best? So that expands your awareness of self-care. So that's why a part of my journey was being obedient into my calling, and we'll get into that a little bit. But again, when you think about self-care, it's what you individually need in the season of your life to be your best. And so when you leave it like that, it broadens it out to whatever that looks like. So when you think about the 6 dimensions of wellness, you think about socially, occupationally, mentally, physically, financially, that encompasses your whole being of who you are. And so when I started the podcast journey, was really to share with people, it's your day-to-day interactions. It is your day-to-day thoughts that come in your mind. It's your day-to-day interactions with people that really shape, who you are and what you need for yourself. So, that's how I define it. And when you're looking at it from a woman's perspective, a lot of women, particularly during the pandemic, was like, wait, I haven't been taking care of myself. Moms and single parents and all of that. It's like, wait, what about me? And they started taking a stance, to say, my mental health is important, or my physical well-being is important. And so I think, that platform is what helped me to kind of bring this forth and be well received.
Yeah. You mentioned something that self-care kind of aids into the season that you're in now, which, I don't know, that kind of like hit me because I have generalized self-care so much that I think I don't even think about in this season, how am I doing and what do I need to thrive? I always look at it as, well, what are we doing today? Like, what's next? But really, I think to even approach self-care, is the first step is, okay, where am I at right now? What is this season offering me or taking from me so I can better yet, take care of myself when it comes to self-care? So I love that we can actually narrow it down to, it's not just day to day, but it's also the season that you're in. Some season may require you going to the beach every day so you can breathe, or some season may require you traveling and stuff like that. So I think it can be very personal as well, like you said, due to your season. So with that, like, what are the most common ways to practice self-care? I know for a fact, facial routines.
Yes.
So apart from that, like, how can any woman practice self-care?
Yeah, it can be as simple, because I like to look at, I options that don't cost, because I think a lot of people get hung up of I need money to do. So when you look at free options,
I don't want to cut you off, but when you said that, I literally thought about Soft Life, Soft Babe, whatever that thing is on social media, where you literally have to spend so much money to have a soft life or self-care. You have to travel to Paris, you have to wear the nicest stuff, you have to take the most beautiful pictures on social media, and that is self-care. And that is like so loud now in the media, that to even do self-care, you have to have so much money.
That's distorted.
Yeah, very.
That's a very distorted view of it. But when you think about free things, you think about breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times we don't take time to understand how our breaths are important, to take time to be still, to rest properly. That's self-care. Sometimes that does more wonders than you getting out there and buying the next outfit. Also, when you think about free things, is writing. Writing can be therapeutic. I know some people are like, I don't want to write it down, it's all in my head. But it clouds your head, it clouds your mind. You can't fully process thoughts when they're just in your head. So sometimes just getting and writing it out, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to make sense to you. Get it out of your head. So that is a part of self-care as well. Listening to music. I know personally, gospel music, smooth jazz music, those are my go-tos.
Yeah.
And so even that can change my mood or, my well-being when I'm feeling down or, not at my best. So, I mean, those are the three things off the top of my head that can simply be done.
Wow.
Any point in time today.
You didn't even mention getting your nails done or getting a pedicure, because
No.
I am not a victim, but I am the person that will post me getting my pedicure, and I'll say #self-care. That really...
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's not the end all be all.
Yeah, and like the whole thing is like, no, that's not really all of it. Like, I need you to sleep a little bit more. I need you to take care of yourself a little bit more than just getting your feet done. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like social media has just like, consumed my mind about self-care. So it's kind of beautiful to hear that, even listening to music, because I actually take that for granted, where there are days where, I can feel down, but then my self-care is listening to gospel, and that really takes care of me. But then I see it as it's a normal habit. But self-care is in your normal day-to-day habits. And I love that we can shine a light on that self-care is not expensive. There are free ways to take care of yourself and putting yourself first. So how did you get into self-care? Like, what made you become an advocate for self-care?
So I do have this story. It's a personal story, but one that I am going to keep sharing because there's a benefit to it. But a few years ago, I was taking out my braids. So I was wearing a lot of braids and everything. Took out my braids and discovered a bald spot. I mean, clear bald, like skin. And I was like, oh, what is going on? Because I've never experienced that before. Yeah. And so when I went to my doctor, she referred me to a dermatologist, and then they said it was some type of alopecia areola, whatever the doctor word for it is. But she was like, hey, we'll start to give you treatments to kind of ignite the hair follicles. And so that moment of seeing that bald spot, I was like, what is going on? And so again, as a woman, you take on so much, you operate in always a heightened state of stress, and you don't realize that. And so what it starts to do is it starts to come out in different ways. And for me, it came out with the hair loss. And so when I was on that journey of getting those injections, it was really a retrospective moment for me. Like, I got to a point where my hair is falling out. And, your hair is, is a woman's pride in a lot of ways. And so with that, it was like, I need to step back. I need to focus on what I need to do for myself instead of trying to be everything to everyone. And then with that journey, I was like, well, I've been doing these Truthful Tuesday videos on Instagram, had a little bit of following, knew I wanted to do more with that. But then that moment was like, I have to get the word out there about the importance of taking care of yourself. So that in itself is what kind of drove me to, I need accountability. And it came by way of my obedience, but it came by way of the podcast, of really getting that out. Because the more I talk to people, the more I say it, the more it's holding me accountable.
Yeah, because then if you're a self-care advocate, I'm going to look at you like, well, what is she doing to motivate me?
But it's hard. So I'm gonna tell people the real. It's not an easy thing. When you are sharing information about it, you are challenged even more. Your day-to-day is challenged even more. And so, again, I have people in my life who listens to the podcast and like, okay, girl, you don't seem like this. You don't seem like you're doing, you tired, you this and that. Like, so they hold me accountable, and I respect that because, again, that's what I want. And I want to be a light to say it's not easy. It's a journey. It's an everyday challenge, but it can be a part of your lifestyle if you allow it to be.
Was it hard, like, focusing on self-care? Like, did you had to put a self-reminder on your phone, like, okay, Shannon, I already sleeping. Shannon, where's your meal? Like, you have to remind yourself consciously, or how was it like starting the self-care journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was me doing the work, but it was other people. I mean, people were holding me accountable that were listening to it or just knew I had the podcast to begin with. So they were like, I was like, okay, I can't let them down because like they're going to ask me about what am I doing and like, what am I doing? So it was really people in my circle, in my corner, that was kind of, seeing moments when I was down, like, girl, okay, this too shall pass. Like, what are we doing to, move you forward with this? And so, again, the things that I talked about is the things I was putting in place, writing, listening to music, breathing, getting out, being active, being around loved ones. So I was using those same things and techniques and tactical things to help me as well.
You set yourself a trap for your success. That's what you did. You literally corner yourself so you can push yourself to be successful. Why the name Power Seed?
Power Seed?
Yeah.
So
I thought it was interesting. When I saw your podcast, I'm like, ooh, what you about to talk about? You about to preach? Like, what's happening?
Well, so that name actually came to me when I was laying down, and I put it in my memo pad, and I was like, Power Seeds. But I didn't know if that was going to be a book title. I didn't know if that was going to be the title.
You got a book in you?
It's a book in me, honey.
Okay. When is it coming out?
Like, I don't know.
Okay. We'll be keeping an eye out for that.
Prayerfully it come out, when it needs to come out.
When it needs to come out, yes, ma'am.
But, so that name came to me. I just wrote it down, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to use it for. But then I went in December of 2019 on, like, a personal retreat. And to Lancaster, the country. And I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I was scared because I was in somebody's basement of Airbnb, their house. And I was like, I'm going to lock myself in here for 48 hours. I brought food, and it was just me, food, TV, and the place. And for that amount of time, I sit and I wrote out the outline for the podcast. I wrote the outline for the book. And then that's why I was like, Power Seeds. This is going to be the title of the podcast. So it came in that weekend where I was really just by myself, thinking about this podcast, what I need to do, outlining everything. And I was like, Power Seeds. And I was like, and then I questioned myself. I said, why Power Seeds? And when I went back, I literally Google searched to make sure it wasn't an existing podcast title. And I was like, Power Seeds. And I was like, wait, Power Seeds are sunflower seeds, flax seeds, all of that. And then what it said is it's nutrient boosts for your body. And I was like, wait a minute, let me think about what this message is. It's inspirational words that when they're spoken, they go into your mind, they take root into your body, and they could potentially change the way you think. So that is why it was Power Seeds. Inspirational words.
I love that. Okay, so you mentioned something that caught my attention. You locked yourself for 48 hours because of your new idea. You wanted to make sure you have the proper outline. That is very uncommon. I think you're the first person I've read that somewhere, like someone has done that, like for writers, they will lock themselves to, get over the writer's block and such. But this is like, I've never really encountered somebody who actually does that. And I feel like it's powerful because you get to tell the world, hold on, let me figure this out. And then that leads me to the question of, I listened to one of your podcasts with a guest, and the title was, no is a form of no. Something about no is also a form of yes.
I think so.
It was. I think this was like a 2022 thing you did, but yeah. And I love that because I tend to be a yes man a lot because I like to show up for people. But I'm now transitioning to the fact that now what about you and the power of no and how it's a boundary. So let's talk about that. What does saying no to the world and yes to yourself look like, and what does it mean?
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you that's hard. I'm not gonna sit here and say like I got it all buttoned up to a T. I don't. I think boundaries is something that I have struggled with a lot of times in my life because I'm a giver, and so naturally you want to extend yourself, and you feel like you can always extend yourself.
Yeah.
And so the setting boundaries is like before you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna establish a boundary, and I've been dealing with you for a year, 2 years in this fashion. It's what, when you're starting to talk to people and you're starting to get closer to them, whatever, it could be a platonic relationship, it could be a romantic relationship. But once you start saying, okay, I'm moving in this direction in my life, God's moved me in this direction, you will have to start putting parameters around, because sometimes people can't have that access that they had to you before because you're headed in another direction. Yeah. So I think, for me, it's really understanding that I may hurt a few folks' feelings, and I got to be okay with that. I may lose some folks, but I have to be okay with it because, again, who God is meant for me to be with in my journey in life is who I'm going to be with, and so some people's feelings need to get hurt to realize that they can abuse you and what you bring and what you need to offer to the world. So, again, to answer your question, it's hard, but that is something that I'm trying to do because I have more in me to do, and I can't lose sight of that by just giving out myself freely to others.
Have you ever established a boundary that came off more harsh than meaningful for you, that you've lost somebody? Like, basically, you meant to set this boundary, but you didn't know how to set it, so you kind of overstepped and then pushed away somebody who you didn't mean to push away. Does that make sense?
Ooh, it does make sense, but I cannot think of an example, and but it goes to because I haven't been good at setting boundaries to begin with. So again, that is something that awareness is key, but it's also being okay with, again, hurting people. When you talked about people pleaser, same way for me. That's been a struggle for me, but understanding that your value is important on this earth, and who does God say you are? And if you believe that who he say you are, you're not meant to be subjected to any and everybody and their demands on your life. So
boundaries used to scare me because I felt like if I tell my loved one no, they'll feel like I don't love them. They'll feel like I am not there to support them. So then I overstep and I'm there for them, but I come home exhausted, not even have time for my face routine, something like that. So I had to learn that it's okay. Those who love you will accept that and respect it and will be on this journey with you. And even if it means that you lose 5 out of 10 friends, well, at least now you know who is for you and who's not. It's a bit scary because I love being around people. I would rather spend my time in a group of people than be alone. But I'm learning that, be alone. Learn you. Focus on you. What about you? Things like that. Kind of like the 48-hour thing you did, but more in a generalized view, I guess.
Know what? If I can add one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead,
Like,
please.
one thing that my mother had always said is like, if you're not there, they're going to make a way. Either they're not going to do it or they're going to find another way. So when you understand that you're not the end all be all for them, they're not always your assignment to deal with, then I think that provides you a little bit more confidence to say, like, no, because you're either not going to do it or you're going to find someone else to do it.
Yeah, I feel like that comes from wanting to save people. Because if you feel like you can save them, then their world is dependent on you. And that makes you want to overwork yourself for them. So I guess the root of that is realizing that you're not here to save anybody. God can do it. He's going to save them. If it's not through you, it's some way.
You might be only meant to plant the seed, not water it, not grow it, not pick it.
Oh, you just taught me a lesson. I have to go back and listen to this. You just taught me a lesson because that's where I really am, like, in my life right now, to realize that I may just, this person is probably in my life just for a season. They're not here for a lifetime, and I may be the person to water it or put the seed in them, and that's that. Don't save them. They are okay. That's God's baby. He's going to take care of them as he did for me. If I can do it, I will. If I can't, I can. I'm so sorry, So, yeah, I had to, when you said that, I'm like, ooh, people pleasing is literally thinking you can save people.
Yeah.
Ooh, that got heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's let go of some stuff right now. Let's get on the fun side. Okay, so Shannon, as a little girl, tell me about her.
Oh my goodness, that's a little. I was looking at some old pictures like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this little child was big. No, I'm just kidding. No, a little chunky, but had big cheeks.
Girl, I still have big cheeks, so if you say that's like, well,
but loved life. Loved life, helping, serving, volunteering. Like that was like me. Anywhere I could just be of assistance. I was looking at pictures and just saw the ambition in my eyes.
Wow.
I saw the just knowing and wanting to do more, the creativity. Like it was interesting looking at these little pictures of myself and, knowing where I'm at in my journey to this point. And it's like, hey, it started, like you're saying, the seeds were always there. And it was evident in those pictures that I took,
Wow. Just by looking at those pictures.
Just looking at those pictures. I mean, the smile, like I was always there. Like, you're always smiling, And so it was that joy. It was that joy for life.
Yeah. As a little girl, what did you want to be?
So as a little girl, I wanted to be this entrepreneur. When I say I had this whole vision in my head, and it might have been supported by television, but I wanted to be like this boss, and I wanted to like look over this big city, have a glass, corner office, name plated and go. But I didn't want to be like those nasty people that, as they pass the people, they don't want to talk to you and, dismissing people. Like I still wanted to love on people and be there with people, but I also wanted to own my own thing and do my own thing. So, that
as a little girl?
Yes, as a little girl. That was my vision.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my mama can attest to it. I said that was my whole vision. Wow. I didn't know what city I was going to be in, what I was going to do. But I think, right now it's not that aspect, but it was the entrepreneurial creativity spirit inside of me. I think that was that was building up to say, you can work for people to understand the business, but at the end of the day, you're meant to own your own, to do your own, to influence in that space.
Wow, you've been like that.
Yeah, so a little.
I love it. So how was your childhood like then? Were you like as a friend or as a sister? Or I don't know much about your family. So how was your childhood like all in total?
Yeah, so my childhood, so I have a funny story because my mom.
Are you going to tell me?
Yeah,
okay.
my mom told me this story, and I actually remember a little bit of it. So we were walking to the bus stop, and I was trying to, because I'm always full of stories. Like, I got a story for this, I got a story for that.
Okay.
So, I wanted to tell her whatever I was telling her, and then she looked at me. I was like, I'm trying to explain it.
Oh.
And she looked at me and she was like, from that point on, I knew it was something special about you, because of your wisdom. So she always said I had a heightened level of wisdom. Like I had an old soul, but a heightened level of wisdom even at a very young age. So I had friends that would come to me for advice that would always feel like, hey, like, let me be in Shannon's space, because there was peace, there was joy, there was, a true caring of who they were. And so that's kind of how I grew up in that space.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were that strong friend.
Yeah. But I was reserved too. I was reserved, and I was quiet. A little bit of shyness was there.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, one-on-one, fine. But in groups, I did not like to be recognized. I didn't like to, come on the stage and do. Nah, I'm good to be in the background. So I had that reservedness, that shyness with me, because it was a love of humility as well. That I'm like, I don't need all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you still have that attribute of you where you're so a little shy and reserved?
Yeah, I mean, to this day, I still get coaching from my mentors, and they're like, "Girl, shine," and I'm like,
"Oh, like, hold on, how much do you want me to shine?
Yeah,
Just how bright?"
It's scary, but I think it's the fear of the unknown of where God can take you, and am I ready? And so it's a little bit of that, and I'm like, "Ooh, if we open this door, Lord, like."
What's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Am I going to be attacked or accepted in love? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So I was always willing to be in the background, serving, helping, supporting. And so a lot of my roles were support roles because I was like, I'm good back here. And little by little, God's like, okay, you think you're good back there, but I'm setting you up for you to shine because you have a voice and it needs to be heard. And so as uncomfortable as it is, I still try to push through it.
Yeah, and that even like is what you do now as an HR personnel. You literally teach leaders how to be a better leader.
Yeah.
You are the reason why they know what they know, and that is a big role. Because recently, I don't know who I was talking to, but one of my friends, she was like, no one wants to be teachers, but everyone needs a teacher. So I feel like that's what you embody. Like everyone needs someone like you to shine, to be proper in their field. If a leader can trust you to teach them, then girl, what is in you?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So how did you find your path in the HR world? Like were you like, okay, I'm gonna, like you mentioned, you want to be in the background, supportive, and you found out route in HR, or you're just like, let's try and see, and that kind of clicked for you?
No, so what actually happened was when I graduated from college, I was like, I don't know what I'm trying to do with this business degree. I got it, but what's next? And so I spent some time in like a call center type of role, and I was like, yeah, this is not where it's at. But the only way to get into HR at that time was through a call center.
Oh, really?
So it was you supporting employees through the HR system, and I was like, still don't want to be on the phones. And so what I remembered was actually one of my professors, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but he was like geeky. He had these big, thick bottle glasses and everything, but he was HR, human resource management class, and I would go to his office hours. He would talk so much about human resources, and he has such a passion, and I saw beyond the geekiness that he presented himself, with in the classroom setting, and I would talk to him, and I was so intrigued because I was like, you always narrow HR in a box, hiring, firing, recruiting, all that stuff. And so when he started expanding my thinking, like, it's so much more to HR. It's at the essence, it's helping people, it's serving people. Again, going back to how I was raised, what I love to do. And so I was like, okay, well, HR, let me see what this is about. And so coming into corporate America and seeing there was different departments that I could touch, again, serving people. So talent acquisition, talent management, now learning, all of that had an aspect of how can I serve, employees, how can I make their experience better. And again, that's my heart for people. And that's why I enjoy what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, I know it's ministry at the end of the day. It's touching lives and having those conversations that I don't know what your life is outside of corporate, but while you're here, how to make you feel, that much better.
Has it been difficult to climb up that ladder to be where you're at now?
Yeah, I would say it was challenges. And we can get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
There, when you are in processes and systematic racism is real. And when it's embedded in processes of companies that's been around longer than you, it is hard to sometimes navigate that, because first you're trying to learn what is really behind it to see how you can kind of, navigate it. And there were times where it got rough, where, emotions were there because I couldn't figure out, like, I know what's in me. I know what I'm capable of doing. But why isn't, someone taking that risk or extending their hand to offer that opportunity? And so it took a lot of support, prayer, advocacy on my own end, because I think what a lot of Black females don't realize is that opportunity is not going to just tap you. You're going to have to go after it, and you're going to have to remove some of those fears, imposter syndrome, all the stuff that could be holding you back internally, and push. And so it's uncomfortable, but you have to push. And the more you push, the more, in my opinion, God is going to enable you and strengthen you and then clear the way. So it was a lot of challenges in terms of interviewing constantly and being told, you interview so well, but you interview so well, but this person had 5 years of experience over you, 10 years of experience. And I'm like, is that the only thing?
And what did they say?
And they said, it takes experience. And they acknowledge it. It takes experience to get experience. And I said, yeah. So when is someone going to give me that experience?
That's my problem in corporate world, because, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I see how a lot of people post that when they're applying for a job, they can say entry level, but then in an interview or in a process, you can be denied because it requires 1 or 2 years of experience. Well, that math it's not mathing.
Yeah.
How am I going to get experience if I don't do the entry level? What do you want me to do? So I think that's a big gap in the corporate world on how to get experience when the experience level or experience what is needed is so high. So what is for me when I'm beginning?
Yeah, but you know what? Another thing, and actually, it was spoke about today about my manager, is that oftentimes even minorities in general don't acknowledge the skills that they have inside of them. And so you've gotten experience in your community, you've gotten experience in professional organization, you got experience, and it's how do you package that? So for example, he was sharing with me, okay, in your previous role, you did a lot of project management. And so you've packaging it only as project management. And when you're packaging it, that's only what people see is project management. But if you dissect it a little bit, you understand you were influencing people without authority. You didn't have the title, but you influenced them. You were collaborating with others. You were critically thinking about, all of these skills is there. But it's how do you take your experience and acknowledge that you do have it? It may be varying degrees, but you have it. And how do you share that? So I think a lot of times we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot because we think, oh, that was nothing. I'm just doing a job. No. Because if you were just doing a job, somebody else would be doing it. You doing it because you was uniquely positioned to do it. And out of that is skill sets that can take you further. So it's amazing.
I love that because I experienced that myself. So with that, somebody coming from, for example, somebody come from a college, just graduated, they want to be, an engineer, but they've done little jobs while they were in the college career, and they have done they've been an RA, things like that. So all those things, they have to sit down and say, okay, what skills have I learned being a student, being in RA, playing basketball that I can use in the corporate world? So even though it's not packaged as work in the corporate world, but you have practice on those skills, you have gained those skills in a different way, in a different entity, but you can still package that.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I feel somebody or generally probably feel well, if I'm going to shoot for a job in the corporate world, I don't want to put I was in the kitchen washing dishes. So,
but listen, how do you do it? I was managing the kitchen sanitation. You was doing that.
It's hard about your resume. Yes. I was managing. That sounds so professional. Wow. Yeah, so, okay.
And that's the thing. as a race of people, we diminish ourselves in so many ways. And I mean, that it breaks my heart because I've been in positions where I've diminished myself, and I understand why. Because we've been in positions of be humble, sit back, don't be too this, don't be too that.
Loud, don't be too much.
Yes. Yeah. And so that fed into us our lack of confidence in ourselves. And what I'm learning from these white males, what I'm learning for these white women, and the ones who advance, is the ones who are able to speak to their experience confidently. And say, I got this. And, even though I don't know X, Y, and Z in that next row, I bet I can learn it, And so you have to have that confidence. And my manager said, look at your track record. Like, when you start questioning yourself, look at your track record. What have you done in the previous? You have excelled in a lot of different ways, and you can do it again.
Yeah.
So,
have you ever interviewed somebody to hire them?
So not in a position for myself, but I've been a part of an interviewing team.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's been interesting because I can, again, see myself and identify myself in a lot of folks. They've been so nervous and, vaguely answering questions and everything. But what I like about it is that because I've been in that same position and I remember that, while I'm interviewing them, I'm able to still sift through, even if the story is all over the place, still, what is the skills? What is the experience? What did they get out of it? How did they reflect on it to move to the next? And that's what I take away from it. So again, that is a skill of a really good interviewer that, they're not looking for you to have a buttoned up answer. But out of what you say, out of them probing a little further, they're able to see you and see what you still bring to the table.
Okay. Do you have any interview tips for the women out there?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think in general. You definitely want to prepare. And I know it's hard because you're like, where do I start? What questions is out there? But think through maybe the top 3 experiences that you have. And just think about it in terms of that experience. And out of that experience, drill down to what was those 3 to 5 skills that you used to accomplish what you did, and then speak to the skills. So not necessarily the experience, speak to the skills, because the skills is what they're really looking for, the transferable things. So, communication, organization, time management, conflict resolution, influencing, those generalized skills, I'm sure has showed up at some point in time in your experiences. So when you have those in the back of your pocket, you're able to then tailor your answers to the questions.
Okay. Since you're in a corporate world, I don't know why you're laughing. I didn't even ask a question.
You're like corporate world.
No, there's been a shift I have seen myself personally and how women are meant to dress in a corporate world. Before it was pantsuits and, looking like a man. But now it has been more feminine for us, where you can wear a nice dress and wear your heels and be comfortable, do your hair how you please. How have you seen that change as a woman in the corporate world?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I'm sorry, you're about to speak.
No. Finish.
I was going to say, do you feel like it's a negative thing for how we are now to present ourselves in the corporate world, or it's more positive, like, oh, we're becoming more women in tune? Yeah.
So I feel like, speaking from my, experience and my employer experience, I think there's now openness. So if you want to wear your hair in braids, if you want to wear your hair in locks, if you want to wear your hair just kind of out and natural, it's more accepted, because again, it's not your hair, it's your abilities.
Yeah.
So those two things don't, it's not mutually exclusive. So I think it's being more and more accepted because they're realizing, like, wait a minute, we're losing minority talent because we're being so restrictive about how they look. And they're going elsewhere. They're going to these startups. They're going to these other places where they're accepted and embraced. But we're losing that intellectual capital. We're losing their experiences, the things that really matter. And so I think there is more of a openness to see people for who they are. And I think that really came with the whole George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Like, it was started to be like, okay, like, let's look at our Black colleagues, our, minority colleagues a little bit differently, because we need them. We we want them here.
Yeah.
Even if it's a underlining business, whatever initiative, it's still, I think they're starting to see the value beyond your hair.
Yeah.
Or your dress.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that even breaking through this corporate world that you wanted to be in, there had to be an opportunity presented to you. Yeah. You had to push through. How was it like when opportunity first came after all that pushing? What was your initial reaction?
Yeah. So I got a story for that too.
Well, let's get into it.
So I was working at a staffing agency, and I got a call. So I was frustrated and I was ready to leave, but I didn't know where I was going. I was interviewing, all that stuff, but I wanted to get into corporate America. And so a recruiting agency lady gave me a call, and she said, "Hi, my name is such and such." And she was like, "I saw on your resume that you work at a place that I used to work at. I did not last a year, and I want to get you out." And literally,
the finger of God.
Yeah. And I had to look around like, is this a joke? Am I getting punked? Like,
where's the camera?
Yeah, like really what's going on? And that was her exact words. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And so she worked with me. So the way our branch was set up, not so many people can be out of the branch. It was me and 3 males. So one person out of the office at a time. So she would work with me before I need to go in. She worked with me afterwards to get everything, and I need my paperwork and all that stuff completed. Like, she was like literally God sent.
Wow.
And so after that, I got an interview in my current employer, and literally she was like, they called me back not even 4 hours later and was like, we want to bring you forth, and we want to have you have an interview.
Interview?
Yeah, the first interview. And she was like, usually it takes them a day or so to figure it out. It was like, she's like, within 4 hours they called back.
The finger of God.
And so at that point I interviewed there, and then I had 3 interviews back to back, and then they called me, and I came in as a contractor, which was normal, to come into the contractor world. And I did contracting for 4 months. And again, that's not heard of because they do contractor for a year. And after 4 months, they're like, okay, we want to bring you full time. So again, just the movement that happened, the timing of it was just amazing. And again, she took a risk. She gave me a chance. And so I just seen that happen throughout my time. But again, that did not come with pushing and pushing and pushing. So to give you a quick another story, I was in my first role in corporate America. And it was a fairly easy role. So I got it. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Very cyclical. So if the person who was above me didn't have a lot of work, I have a lot of work. So I was like, I'm not about to sit here and twiddle my fingers and just talk to people next to me. So I said, okay, I'm about to start networking. And so I started going out and meeting people, going to organizational events, meeting people. And so I would always have lunch and meetings with other people. And in particular, it was this lady. She was a VP of communications. So she was a communications person to our CEO. And so I met her at an event, and she, to this day, she won't tell me, but I felt like in many ways she was my sponsor. She was the advocate that I needed. She was the one saying, y'all better do something, because she's ready to leave. She's getting frustrated. She has what she needs, what's going on. I feel like she was having those conversations on my behalf. And she was a white woman. And so it was just no shade, no color, it don't matter. If they're going to be for you, they're going to be for you. Yeah. So again, God placed so many people along this journey to help clear the way.
Wow. Okay, so God, literally, like I said, the finger of God. But I feel like behind closed doors, you did so much to even get this miraculous journey. So I want to know, how did you include God for him to even act in that way?
Yeah, because it took prayer. Because I ain't gonna say it wasn't frustrated. It was many of days of crying and wondering is this what it is? I'm just trying to do the work and be excellent, and we're not getting anywhere, getting passed over and all of that. But there were rams in a bush many of days. So I started getting connected with women at work who would literally take me into conference rooms, pray with me before interviews.
Wow.
They would take me into other rooms, say, just tell me what's on your heart, what's on your mind. So it was days I cried, even in corporate America, in a conference room, but I was given that space. And so that's where I was like, okay, God, you still have more for me to do here because you have given me these people that can uplift me when it was just hard. It was really, really hard because it was like, I just can't understand why so much felt like oppression, like so much oppression coming at you when you're just trying to do what you're being called to do. But I had to change my thought process too, because I'm not trying to project like it was everybody's thing. My thought process around who I was, and what I stand for. So in terms of when I looked at myself, I was like, wait a minute, who do you work for? You don't work for this employer. You work for God. So when you start shifting your mind and say, I work for God. So whatever y'all trying to work out and devise and do all of that, what's meant for me will always be for me. Nobody can stop that. So that gave me peace. That gave me hope. That gave me light to know that no matter what I'm facing is building me up, but in due time.
Wow. Yeah. How long was that pushing journey? Like how many, was it like 2 years, 3 years, couple months?
Look, no, it was some years. It was, so I've been where I'm at for 8 years. Okay. And so it's, been pushing all those years, and it's been 3 roads within those 8 years. Oh, wow. So yeah, so every road did not come easy. It wasn't, again, no one tapped me on the shoulder. There was work that was put into it, but a lot of prayer and dedication.
Wow. Yeah. Whew, okay, that's a lot. That's very empowering for me because I'm new in the corporate world and trying to maneuver myself through it. Been in for just a couple years, so it's something. Yeah. And I think the fact that you didn't give up motivates me and inspires me, because even the times where you wanted to give up, God was like, hey, I got you somebody here to pray with you. Yeah. I got you. Like, I didn't bring you here to leave you alone. I got you and I know where I'm taking you. And you allowed him to do that. And then when the time came for him to move, he was like, bah, 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 bah. And it was beautiful.
Absolutely. Or he moved people. So it was interesting how God worked in so many ways. He either changed something inside of me or he changed something inside of someone else, or he moved them out the way. So it was always like, it was one of the 3 things happening: move somebody out the way, change their heart, or change my heart. And then all of that working together is what happens. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, I feel like as women, we like to talk about boys.
Do we? No,
you don't think so? I mean, that's a little ago. That's like in high school and middle school. It's like, this boy has a crush on me. I have a crush on this boy. Right? In love.
I was focused on my education. No,
okay. So I want to ask you, like, how has it been like dealing with men in a romantic sense as a little girl, high school, college, and now you?
So it really did not begin until high school, because all along I was focused on education. Like I said,
even in middle school.
In middle school.
Oh my God.
In middle school, yes. Because I was dedicated. I was like, get these A's, girl, because I don't know where we head, but we're headed somewhere. So seriously, I didn't have no boyfriend in middle school. It was into high school where I got exposed to, okay, you looking at me, I'm going to look at you now. But again, I was so focused on education. That was my go-to. But in high school, you dibbled and dabbled and had these like, puppy love type of relationships. Yeah. And so, I had a couple people I dealt with or whatever, but it was nothing like too serious. So the boyfriend that I actually had coming out of high school did not go to college. I went to college. So you could see kind of the split. And then I started learning more, doing more, being exposed more, and, you're back at home. So that kind of dissipated within my first year, because I was like, we are in 2 different mindsets that, at this point, it's not going to work. But through college, I didn't, date, You
didn't date in college?
I did not date.
Oh, my God.
I didn't. Because again, you have flirtatious, relationships with people, but it was like I wasn't committed to, again, my mind was like, okay, let me experience college for what it is, and I don't need to be tied down with X, Y, and Z relationship. And so, no, in college I wasn't. And
you didn't even go on dates?
I don't think so.
Oh my God. I am, hold on. Let me.
But it doesn't mean that I wasn't, like, I didn't have, like, platonic relationships with males. Like I was just sitting here like, okay, only females in my circle. Like, no, I interacted with them, but it was just, again, it was, I don't know. I didn't need that, at that
Your
time.
dedication, it's so powerful because even as humans, like biologically speaking, you get to a point in your life where you want that kind of romantic attention from a man or romantic feelings happening. You didn't?
No. So after college is when I got into a 5-year relationship.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So that was kind of the first, if you want to call it real, like long relationship. So, yeah, I got into that. And, I mean, it was learning and growing and doing all that stuff. I met him at my first job outside of college. And then we were together for 5 years. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you lost experience by not dating in middle school and college?
No, I don't. I think I made it up for it well into my adult years. So
okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think I missed out because, again, it wasn't my focus because it was just like, okay, y'all there, but I'm trying to go somewhere else, And if you want to be silly, you want to play around and do all this stuff, like, nah.
Wow. I feel like every woman we go through a stage was like, I gotta learn what I like, my standards, and
I mean, that happened in my 20s. Yeah, it happened in my 20s. Like, after college, I started trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But again, I was trying to figure out who are you? Like, who am I?
That. So, like you literally put yourself first, learning you first before anybody else. It's just this day and age. It's like, I mean, I grew up watching Disney Channel where middle school and high schoolers are getting heartbroken. Like, they care about the guy that's taking them to dance. So coming to this state, I came here 5th grade, going into middle school. So, and I loved Hannah Montana. So that's why, like, I'm even thinking about the culture of America, how when you're 13 and 14 growing, that's when boys start coming into your life and you're worried about who you are because of the validation of them. And that was very like loud, back then. So I was thrown in a culture of, well, if Chad says I'm cute,
my mama raised me to say, like, look, you look in your mirror and you tell yourself you're cute because nobody, no man, no nothing need to tell you you're cute. And so, again, but I had male acquaintances, but I also had female, like, best friends. And so, again, I didn't feel like I was losing out with anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that. You literally like went against what was being taught socially and just focused on you and did you and didn't listen to what Mark and Zach and whatever had to offer you. You had to offer you something.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Okay, so what have you learned now? And you're in your 30s now. So what have you learned now in relationship and dating?
Yeah. Each one is different. Each one is different. I think I learned a lot about myself, and I mean, good ways and bad ways as well. A lot of the relationships, I would say, were mirrors in my life. So if there was things where I'm like, nah, I'm good, like, you tripping, but it was kept coming back, like they kept mirroring different things, or like, saying, okay, you did this, or you did this is how you make me feel. It was checking myself because I was like, girl, you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes, and, you got to take into account the person that you're dealing with. And, what might hurt this person might not hurt that person. And you got to still be respectful of them. So again, I think learning that, but one of the things I felt like is, sometimes you can get lost in people real quick. And that's not good because,
especially a giver.
Yeah, you can get lost in people real quick because, I had a lot of fixer-up projects. And I'm like, oh, honey, like, okay, well, you struggling. I'm going to be here through your struggle.
I'm going to support you.
I'm going because whenever, you succeed, that I was here in the trenches with you. So I took on a lot of the folks that were essentially bringing me back, then moving me forward. So I kind of got into a lot of those positions where it was like, I felt like I had to step up and be that person. And, I'm like, well, where was the femininity in it? Like, where was the, I could sit back and allow you to lead. That was not the case. It was me leading, dragging you, hoping you coming along in the journey. And so again, losing yourself in those moments and in those periods of time, and then saying, okay, after you leave me for whatever reason or we're done, then I'm like relearning who I am. And like, it's just, yeah. So it wasn't a good cycle either. But I mean, there were positives in there as well. You get to understand that, you know, you get to love, you know, you get to experience new things and new experiences with other people. You get to learn about their lives and their background. So, I mean, it went all bad.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. So like you mentioned, you having to learn into your feminine energy. What were some practices that you did that led you to be your utmost feminine self?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm there yet. But I think my current relationship, I ain't gonna look over there, but I think, you know, with that, it's just, you know, seeing the leader in him and acknowledging like, okay, you're still going to be respectful. You're still going to lead respectfully. But I don't feel like I have to step up, drag you, move you, do this. Like you were already thriving in your own right, doing what you need to do. And we're moving in the same direction. And so I think that allowed me to see like, okay, I can step back. I ain't saying without fuck because it's still reared up a little bit. And I was like, wait, settle down a little bit, settle down. But I think, again, having the confidence in that person to lead allowed me to be able to step back and say, okay, I can, you know, submit. And again, the Bible talks about that in the context of marriage. But I'm just saying I can sit back and say, okay, like I know you're not gonna, I can trust you.
Yeah.
And that you're not going to lead me astray. So I think that, you know, it's a recent thing, but it feels good.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wait, I could be a little soft, you know?
Aww. So you were able to tap into your feminine energy because the person you're with is in his masculine energy and he is doing the leadership thing, right? So it allows you to follow because it's like if you are going and if you're leading me to a place of beauty and softness and happiness and trust and vulnerability, then I can be the most feminine version of me because you're doing your part. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
And you spoke on it, vulnerability. That's a big piece. And I mean, you can't tap into your feminine energy without being vulnerable. And so it's like if a person allows you the space to say all that you're feeling, while you're feeling, express your insecurities, all of that, then you will then, again, be in a position where you're like, wow, okay, I can heal parts of me that I didn't know was hurt still. I can heal parts of me and, you know, be the woman that God is calling me to be in this relationship.
Wow. So what do you think you can, you know how when someone breaks up with somebody, they're like, oh, I got to heal first. Don't talk to me. Don't touch me. I need a year off, you know. So do you think you can heal in a relationship or you need to be fully healed before you jump into the next relationship?
That's a good question. I think it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
I think jumping from one to one relationship, you don't realize the magnitude of all that you went through. So I think, you know, you do maybe need to take a little bit of a pause to say, let me just regroup with me by myself without him sitting right next to me. Let me regroup. And so I think some things, because you might see patterns of, you know, hopping. Why are you hopping? You're the constant in this. Why are you hopping? So there is some things that you need to do or it's going to continue to carry over into the next relationship. But I also think there's also pieces that you probably won't uncover yourself because you're in yourself. And so I think that person will help you to uncover that. But again, it takes the right person to go through that journey with you.
Okay, so it is possible to heal, but it has to be with somebody who's going to bring that out of you and not suppress it or make it worse.
Yeah, I'm going to have that patience and that love of God to deal with you.
Yeah, patience. It's a virtue. We get in there. We get in there. So what has been like, apart from like stepping into your femininity, what has been like another major lesson you've learned by being in relationships?
That you need to listen. You need to listen, because, and I mean, it's listening to what's said and what's not said, and I think that is
what's said and what's not said.
Yeah, because I mean, when you love someone, you want to make sure that you are keeping in mind the things that they're saying, but their body language can say a different story. Their movements, the way that they, look, can say a different story. So then you can go deeper and say, okay, well, you said that, you didn't like this, or you're okay. I should say that you're okay, but your body language is like you're frustrated, you're angry. Like let's go into that a little bit more. So I think paying attention and focusing really on what that person is saying and what they're not saying is super important.
Wow. I feel like that even goes above communication. Like, you can communicate, but if the person is not willing to share, you then have to look at their body language to get the answer that you need. So that's different. Usually
body language is key.
Yeah.
Like, if you observe, and you're in rooms with people and you observe body language, it shares a lot, because it's a lot of subconscious that's coming out of people's body language. So you're able to tell a lot. Wow.
What are some standards generally that you think a woman should have before getting into a relationship?
Ooh, standards. Talking about them boundaries, girl.
So,
Look,
you have to.
Boundaries. I think you need to know what. I know we talked about I've talked about it with people. What are your negotiables and non-negotiables? And again, that's not being unrealistic, because again, if this is something that you're not going to vibe with, you're not going to vibe with, no matter who they are. So you got to be comfortable with saying, okay, do they need to be a believer? Is that an important core value of you? Do they need to be financially stable? Do they need to be, ambitious? Like, whatever that looks like for you, have that at your core, because that is what you're using to evaluate people. And again, the difference in this one is that I ask God to be at the center. And so when God is at the center and he's going before you in that relationship, he's going to reveal things that you would not have picked up if you went in there blindly and you're trying to push your own agenda. So I think that's one major thing, is to be prayerful about anybody that you're dealing with, because, what's done in the dark is always going to come to light. And I think God will reveal that, because he is light. So he's going to reveal that quicker to you before you get all wrapped up in your emotions and stuff.
Did you have a list?
A list? At one point in time. But I said, girl.
Why'd you throw it away?
Why did I throw it away?
Yeah.
Because some of it was unrealistic.
What was it?
I mean, you had to hide the body weight, the skin tone, I said, the Lord gonna tell me, like, you about to get a short man who gonna be white, and all the stuff you said no to, you about to get them. So, when I had to realize, like, God's gonna give somebody I need, not necessarily always what I want. But thankfully, he gave me somewhere I want too. But yes, but really, again, letting God lead you. And I think that's hard for single females who are frustrated by the process of going after one guy after the next, and they're being disappointed or being let down. But there is a waiting process that God will have you in. But in that moment, he's refining you, and then he's preparing that person. So you got to kind of trust that. And then when he leads you to it, you're going to see that there's less stress, there's less anxiety, there's more joy in the process than you would have experienced.
Yeah. How do you keep God in your relationship? Is it you guys holding hands and praying together every night, or reading the Bible? Like, how is that like?
Yeah, so devotional. So another thing that, the person that you're meant to be with is going to bring you closer to God. And that's what someone told me. And I was like, wow. So when I look back at the past relationship, I'm like, they weren't bringing me closer to themselves. That's what they were trying to bring me closer to. But, they'll bring you closer to God. And so that's how you kind of know that sign. And so, again, it looks like, the devotional, the prayers. Like, it could be times where we are not even in each other's space, but I'm like, I pray for you. Or, if you're sleeping, I pray for you. So I think keeping prayer at the center, keeping the devotional, going to church together, listen to gospel music, it's kind of all encompassing, because it's a part of life.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. That's because I've heard a lot, like, keep God in the center. But I was like, how does that really look like? Would you, like, have to literally say, God, I'm here, he's here, in the middle, tell us what to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, it's hard because, I mean, you should include him in every decision, but you can't say, okay, not in this, Lord, but in this one, not in this one. And so you really do, but it has to be a conscious thing. And again, a good thing is having a partner is that you both can hold each other accountable. So the days when I don't want to pray, okay, he's going to pray, and vice versa. So it's going to be days where it's like, I don't want to do this thing, like, you know, and that's where, you know, God is going to bring people, or he's going to, you know, change one of our hearts to be like, all right, let's get back on track.
And I feel like that makes life even easier, because it's in the Bible, two is better than one, because if one falls short, the other can lift up the other. So if you are just by yourself and you've fallen short, quote unquote, and there's no one around you to really uplift you. So in a relationship where God is in the middle, when you're down, that person can bring you up and vice versa, which then makes life easier. So it's actually beneficial to you, more beneficial to you. That's not hurt. I don't think there's no hurt having God in the middle. I've never heard of any negative, really. No. So yeah, I think it's even more beneficial. And I think it's something that should be practiced way more. Yeah. And to have the best choice, because sometimes our feelings get in the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, wait, I like him. He's cute. Relax. you say no or not now. Like, what is it? So I have to allow God to overpower my emotions. And even if it feels like, it's good at the moment, allow God to know that he is the end all be all. He knows the beginning and the end. If he's telling you no or yes, he knows why, even if it doesn't look like it. So just trust in him. And I don't know why I'm preaching, but
no, you're doing it because you and it goes back to experiences. You're learning it, and when you have stumped your toe so many times, you know, like, okay, we're not doing that again. And so that's, you know, I've been in a lot of experiences where stump my toe to the point where you're like, okay, Lord, I'm done with this because my toe is just bruised. Yeah. You know, and so I think that is what has led me to like, okay, I need to just surrender. And I start saying, I'm like, this man is orbiting. I kept saying this to my friend. I said, this man is orbiting somewhere around me. He hiding in the bushes. He's somewhere. He's near. I feel he's near. I just don't.
Really?
Yeah. And I was saying that for the last probably 2 years. Like, he's near. I just don't know where he at. Yeah. And so.
Wow. Oh,
he was orbiting.
That's funny. So in a general point of view, what are some challenges that you went through from the course of your life, and how did you overcome that challenge, whether it's in corporate or personal, anything?
I think one of it, and it's still there, but I felt like I've been actively working at it, is really that imposter syndrome, because it creeps up like none other. It creeps up in my purpose for life. It creeps up in my professional world and the ministry. So I would say imposter syndrome because, again, it's like, who am I? You know, like, who am I to do this? Like, why are you calling me? You know, and you kind of get inside of yourself. And so I think one of the things I keep sharing with myself, and what I had shared with you earlier, that it's bigger than you. Like, girl, it ain't about you. At the end of the day, it's bigger than you. And so when you remind yourself in those moments that you have to push, because there's people's lives
depends on you saying yes and doing what you need to do. Yeah. It's a burden, but it's a beautiful burden.
Yeah, it is. It is, because it's going to be people that you never ever meet that has been impacted. Yeah, you have people that are suicidal, people that are suffering depression, all types of things. And they come across your podcast, they come across the message, and that's the hope that they need to get them to the next day. So it's just, so that's why I also want to encourage you. I know it is, I want to encourage you because, I mean, you're going to continue to have those moments of like, I'm tired, Lord. But again, just be reminded that what you're doing is special. It's a gift. He gave it to you for you to share with the world. And it's just a blessing. It's a blessing. So be encouraged, be empowered. No matter where this goes, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Well.
Don't cry. No.
No, I love when people like encourage me, especially women that I interview, because I bring you on here so you can empower others, and I end up being empowered myself because of my guest, and that is beautiful. And I love that you see the value in what I'm doing. It's been a hard journey for me mentally because I would like to do things my way and control things myself, but yeah, God had to fix that. I mean, he's still doing it. So it's been a journey, and I'm just learning more of that. Trust him. He knows what he's doing, even if it doesn't look like it. Mm-hmm. But that was very encouraging. Thank you for that, honestly.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about boss babe, the control thing is real.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, okay, I didn't set this plan up for my life. I didn't set up this, I done did all A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so when you do that and you feel like only you can do it, it's hard to allow people in your space. It's hard to sometimes accept feedback or suggestions or help, but and it spills into being a Black female too.
Yeah.
Feeling like you have to be in position to take it all on, but just know that where your strength ends, other people's strengths will begin and will kind of pour into you.
Yeah.
So and allow people to be in there to help you along the journey.
Yeah, trusting people that they can help you.
They're not going to do it 100%.
But it will help.
If they go 70, you got to be good with the 70 and let it go.
Yeah.
And that's a part, actually, my manager, I know I'm going on, but my manager had mentioned this. It's so interesting how I have conversations that is really relevant for our time right now. But my manager was like, that's a part of you moving into manager level positions, leader positions, is being able to delegate it and trusting and empowering people, because that's where you really get to develop who they are when you allow them to make mistakes and all that. And she was like, they will never do it like you, but be okay with it. They're going to do it in their own way, and they're going to make it better. So be okay with the 70.
Yeah. Or sometimes even if it's 15, be okay with that. You're going to develop that 15 to 50 because they are aligned with you.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned the whole control thing, I had to huff and puff because recently, beginning of the year, I had this thing that I wrote when I was in high school in my notes, in my iCloud, so I never deleted it because I remind myself that not your will. So beginning of the year, I looked at my notes and I had my life laid out from 18 to 30. I said 18, I'm gonna be in college. I'm gonna be married by 23 because the guy I was with at that time, we're talking about being married right after college. I will have my master's by 25. I'm about to be 25. I'm not starting my master's yet. I'm gonna have 3 kids by 20. I literally, no joke, I can show it on my phone. So it's whenever I read it now, I laugh. I'm like, God, why'd you smack me when I was writing this? Who told me to do this? That's crazy. So just seeing how in my life that I had all these goals planned out, but allowing God to do what he's doing, I have accomplished actually way more than what I thought I would right now. Absolutely. So allowing God to take control and you just sitting back and saying, God, do you? I'm going to just obey. Yeah. It's more beneficial. Yeah. So
I got a quick story to that. I had a vision board. I did 2 vision boards in 2018 and 2019.
Yeah.
And the things I put on my vision board, I'm starting to see this year. Again, 5 years, 4 years, and they're just now coming. And so I'm going to start encouraging people that God will give you the desire, the vision, years before you will ever sometimes see it. But along those journeys, again, you're being refined, you're being in positions, people are coming into your life, so that the right time, that vision he gave you is going to come to be. So I brought that 2018 and 2019, I showed Kingsford, and I was like, wow, these things are starting to happen.
That's crazy. Because no one ever talks about it takes years for a vision board to come to pass. I've heard on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram that, for 2022, I did these 10 things and all came to pass in this year. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to do one, because if all it takes is making a vision board, I'm going to do one too. But that's crazy. It took you 4 or 5 years to get what you got. That's, man. Yeah. No one talks about that. Just patience.
Patience, absolutely.
Patience. Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, you're teaching me is patience and grace. You're so graceful. I love that. Okay, so let's not drag this conversation. I feel like there's been a lot of gems out of here that I would love myself to even rewatch in times of lowness because
You too, girl.
you too. No, I feel like there's so much things that we mentioned and talked about that are motivational. But now when things are happening, Shannon said she went through it. It may have taken 4 years, but the person she became out of it was more beautiful than what she even expected. And the right time came, she was able to accept that because refining process, she allowed it to happen. So that I love it, but I feel like it's a little bit more in you. So before we end the show, and I want you to empower, let's say somebody from 18 to 25.
Okay.
I feel like those years are the years where that molds you. That is like the firm foundation of who you become as a woman. So I want you to advise that 18-year-old to the 25-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely can. I think what I would say, and this is actually on my Instagram profile, is that you are good enough. You know who you are is good enough. I think we're always striving, and we'll always continue to strive, but be okay with where you're at in life. Be okay and accept that, God is positioning you here. He is calling you here. Be present and be in that moment and learn as much as you can and from who you can in those moments. A lot of times we are always looking for answers as well, but I think in those uncertainties you experience the beauties of life. So I would say, 18 to 25, you're still trying to figure out yourself, your life, all of this stuff like that. But continue to ground yourself, continue to reflect of who you are. But again, give yourself, like you said, grace, because it's hard out here.
Life is not over because one thing happened.
Yeah, and it doesn't define you. You're absolutely right. So, a lot of things that you go through 10 years from now may not even matter. And so you have to forgive yourself in a lot of ways. Ask God for forgiveness, but forgive yourself so that you can be at peace and move forward to where He's calling you to be. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for allowing me to even talk to you and allowing whoever watched this to be a little part of you. Thank you that you allowed God to make you who you are, because it has so much, it's like your water's overflowing to the point that just listening to you fills up my cup. Yeah. So thank you for going through the process. And I feel like all that was meant for you to even empower other people. So if you don't know if it's in you, you do. You're not just teaching leaders or company leaders. You're teaching women around you to go through the process that you went through. Yeah. So thank you for that. I enjoyed talking to you. I hope to talk to you a little bit more sometime off, not on the camera. I don't have to be in front of the camera all the time, but just on a personal level, because I love the woman that you are personally. So thank you. And I hope you're welcome. And I hope that somebody else learned from you. It's been an honor having you here and Empower Her.
Yes, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing and letting God lead you to your next.
Amen.